Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Elliot Foreman, and this is the Business is War podcast. And today, we are delighted to welcome Murphy Paul Jr., former chief of police, lifetime law enforcement specialist agent. He's gone through the ranks from the very bottom all the way to the top. It's a true story of survival and triumph in regards to that career field. But today, he's taking all of those knowledges and wisdoms, and he's going to leverage that to a different career, into consultation and into community activism and things of that nature. But we're going to speak to him and talk to him about it, and I am delighted to have you. Welcome to the show.
No, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you are a New Orleans born.
Across the canal. Okay. CTC.
And what high school did you went to?
So I went to Edison, was my elementary school, and I went to Alfred Lawless Senior High School, which turned, the name changed to Dr. Martin Luther King High School, and I tell you, it was disappointing to hear recently that the school has been closed down.
Well, listen, schools are under attack all over.
Yeah.
I think education is making a big time pivot. I think we're undereducating people for the first time in 10 years since the beginning of formal education actually started to be tracked. But that's another topic. But you are a New Orleans native. You had a decorated career in law enforcement. Tell me where you started.
So actually, I started levee board on the levee board police on Sundays, where everyone used to hang out on the lakefront. I started my law enforcement career with levee board. Did about 2.5 years there, going to school at night while I was there, and then I applied to state police and was accepted to state police in 1994, and I became a trooper.
Okay, but for those people who don't know, what does the levee board police do here in the New Orleans area? So
the levee board police is actually a state agency. Our headquarters was on the lakefront, right at Elysian Fields Avenue and Lakeshore Drive, and we actually patrol the levees. The levees around the city.
Patrolling for what, like drugs?
Well, not necessarily, just for protection. We patrol the communities in those areas for protection. There are some communities on the Lakeshore Drive area. We patrol those areas. Down Haynes Boulevard, and we had full police authority and powers. We're post-certified police officers. So it was not just to protect the neighborhoods around there, to protect property, state property along those areas as well, and to make sure that the levees were being protected and the infrastructure that keeps this city safe.
So we're gun-toting, fully licensed and bonded police officers on the levee just because that's just a smaller jurisdiction for that.
It's to protect the levee district around the state.
How many cops were on the levee district?
I don't remember the exact number we had back then. I don't know if but we had 4 different squads. We were full-fledged law enforcement agency back then. We had a chief of police, all ranks, just like a paramilitary organization. So a typical police department. It was like we were on our own district, right? Our own district on the lakefront. As you well know, we used to hang out a lot on the lakefront back in the days, right? And so Sundays on the lakefront, there were masses of people coming just to have fun, party, enjoy music, and just enjoy the sights. And that had become a weekly hangout for those in New Orleans to just come out and have a good time. And boy, I used to love that job. Let me tell you, I used to love being out there.
Well, you know what? New Orleans is such a feel-good city.
Yeah.
And it drives me crazy because I think we party more than we work. And I think we sometimes see that in the disciplines as well as in the economic impact of it.
Yeah.
But how did you pivot from levee through education to the state?
Well, there were some challenging times that were happening at levee board at one point, and I had a conversation with my mother, who was very influential in my life, and if I was going to continue that career in law enforcement, that I should consider other advancements. And state police came up, our federal partners came up. We talked about the Federal Law Enforcement Authority and the state police. I remember bumping into a state trooper when I was young at a K&B drugstore, and because I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana, we didn't have a very favorable opinion of the NOPD at that time. There's so many investigations that we can talk about on why that was happening in our community, particularly in the height of the crack cocaine epidemic, and how it was destroying our community and families in so many ways. And I remember at KNB bumping into this state trooper.
Okay.
And he called me sir. And I looked up at him and he smiled and he was clean. I mean, he had the blue and gold,
right,
just crisp and clean. Yeah. And he smiled and apologized for me for bumping into him. And I was like, wow, that was different. Because that wasn't the experience that I had as a young child with the officers who were in my community at that time.
Well, go ahead on. Shout out to the police officer, state trooper that was clean as hell and spoke to a young man and gave him a trajectory, a place to shoot to.
That's right.
And I appreciate that. And I think that more men in career fields should dress the part and show younger men what it looks like to step into a different level, you know?
Yeah, when they see it, you could be it, right? And that small, those few seconds, right? It's really all it was. It did have an impression on me, and so when I had those conversations with my mother and state police came up, I applied for state police, took the tests, and first opportunity after that, I was accepted to the first class after I took the test. So a very rewarding career.
Mm-hmm.
And
how many years?
Oh gosh, 33, almost 34 years of law enforcement total.
No, at state
police, I did 27 years.
I don't know if you know this, but you should get more than a watch and an ink pen. That's a real career there.
Yeah, a great career. I tell you, so many memories, so many stories, and just a fantastic career I had at Louisiana State Police, and retired as a deputy superintendent. I went through the ranks. I was a sergeant. I was a lieutenant. I was a captain. I was a major, and the deputy superintendent, which is the lieutenant colonel ranks. And I was running. I was the head of the Bureau of Investigations when I retired in 2017. And
as you should, because one thing about the law enforcement ranks, the police ranks, is that they promote military style. Mm-hmm. So every 4 years, you're supposed to test for it, comply for it, and keep moving through. And that's the each one teach one model. I completely agree with it. But guess what? There are people who will come in and stay in the same position for 27 years and leave in that same position. And so the military and the police force, they do a good job of supporting you to go through the ranks, to get up, because you're wiser. You have tenure. It's just about the discipline, the time. You have investment. They invest in you. You invest in your career. You should get it. And so you did 27 years at state. Where were you located at for that?
So I started my state police career in Mandeville, Louisiana, Troop L. I was a uniformed trooper there, and then after about maybe 1 year, actually, a year out of the academy, I was transferred to Narcotics. And I was transferred to the Narcotics Division in Mandeville. I did that a couple of years, and then we had a federal task force was created out of the DA office in Metairie, Louisiana, which is the New Orleans field office. And I was reassigned there, so I worked on a federal task force with our federal partners, local partners. NOPD was there, Jefferson Parish Sheriff's Office.
All just for narcotics?
We're strictly focusing on disrupting and dismantling drug trafficking organizations who are operating in the New Orleans metropolitan area.
So let's keep that real. If you think about it, the drugs had to come from somewhere.
Right.
So who do we hate more? The people that imported it into the United States, or the ones who were circulating it around inside the United States? And not only circulating around the United States, but how do you find your end user who's going to be, a victim of drug crime? And let's call it what it is. If you give a 15-year-old kid some drugs for the first time, they're never going to be the same.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the war on drugs, when you look at over time, how we, from a law enforcement standpoint, have addressed it, I think one of the challenges, and I think we're starting to see that more today, the more we rely on research, the more we rely on our experiences, the more we collectively come together as law enforcement leaders and talk about and have real serious conversations about mistakes of the past. I think you see now that we're more strategic now, and we started seeing that over the past decade in terms of how we approach crime, how we approach drugs. Look, we look at what the crack cocaine epidemic did to communities all across America. I know everybody who's lived in a disinvested area of this country have a story to talk about when it comes to how we witness
We
the
all have
destruction of
somebody
family.
in our family that has
Absolutely.
been a victim of drugs.
Absolutely, and I think our response was different back then. If you recall, we were locking young men up, throwing away the key, black men, young black boys, and yet the same crime when it was powder cocaine, even though it was more, the penalties were less on the federal level, right? Because
now let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you why I say that. Because
sir.
you telling me if I do cocaine, I get less charges than if I do crack.
If you were caught with the cocaine and if you were caught crack, the federal guidelines were different. And look, we didn't understand that as
well, I'm gonna be honest with you, because I'm not a drug addict or a user or a drug, whatever. I don't know the difference between cocaine and crack.
Well, you can't have the crack without the coke, okay?
Oh,
but
I want you to know that most Americans today, okay, there's only a small percentage who know the difference between the snort and the smoke or the cook or whatever. And I'm saying that, and it's comedic, but at the same time, like, how do you cut it both ways from Sunday? How do you separate the two if it's the same thing?
Well, it's a process that it goes through from cocaine to make it a hard rock form, but you have to be cooked up, and there's a process. But I think the response to that epidemic, I think, was on some social levels where, because it appeared that it affected the African American community the most, that the sentencing, and I think if you look at from a historical standpoint, we see that it wasn't fair in terms of how penalties were handed down to communities of color, those who, young black men and boys
I'm going to be devil's
arrested.
advocate. Do you think it was a broad spectrum design to punish a certain segment of people, or do you think it's just the collateral damage? Because I have a hard time thinking that two old guys were in a room and decided that they were going to mastermind and engineer a way to defeat an entire race of people. So I'm only saying that because it's like, it kind of sounds crazy, maybe even though that might have been the end result.
Yeah, well, I think it's systemic issues, right? I think there are cultures. I'm sure we've had those of influence in leadership positions who may not necessarily were looking at the community as a whole, or to look at how policies, how certain rules or certain laws would negatively impact one segment of our population. And I think if we dive into that, that's a whole nother conversation.
But guess what? The numbers
itself.
Probably won't lie.
Well, but I think having those uncomfortable conversations about where we were, where we are, and what we can do to be better, I think that our response during the crack cocaine epidemic was the wrong response.
Yeah.
And we didn't really think about the impact it was going to have on the community as a whole, and understanding that when we think about it. Look how many young men went to jail for marijuana and it's legal now, right? How many men who were 2-3-time losers, as it was put back then in some circles, because they had been caught at three strikes and you're out, and they were receiving larger penalties. And some of that is legalized today, in terms of how we would approach that today as a society. It's from a more understanding position that addiction is a disease.
It is a disease, and I think it should be treated just like cancer and some other stuff. But I will ask you, Donald Trump recently said that, President Donald Trump recently said that he would treat drug dealers like terrorists. And because I am a parent and I know the impact of what it could do to a young, tender child. And I once had a friend tell me she snuck into her dad's basement and drank a beer out of the bottom refrigerator shelf. And she didn't even finish the beer. She put it back. But she said after 2 swallows, she knew she would never be the same, because she, at a tender age, activated the addiction gene.
Wow.
And most addicts know the very moment that they become addicts, the moment that they lose their self-reliance and their dependency grows. They know that moment because their brain, from a cocktail's perspective, does something very different at that moment. So when I put the parent hat on, I can actually see the value of a statement like that. I may not agree with it. I may not be in a position to make a heavy comment about it, but I can say in this particular, instance, I have some level of understanding. And so I know that's late. I framed that up for you just to ask, do you believe that the people that are pushing the drugs into our communities, that are destroying our communities, do you believe them to be terrorism level?
Oh, I think there needs to be accountability. I don't know if I would put that that
basically means they're the enemy of the state, and they get the full weight of the federal government against them. If you sell drugs to kids, or if you push it into neighborhoods, number one, you can't get. There's no tax revenue on it, so you ain't doing nothing. So you done messed up the money, and you're definitely not doing anything. It ain't like you're selling water bottles or vitamins. I gotta say that I don't know any drug dealers that are drug users that are. I don't know, maybe doing heart surgery or whatever.
Well, I think when we look at drugs and obviously the president says a lot, right?
Yes, he does.
But I rely on my experience as a law enforcement leader and the experiences of chiefs all across America, both active and retired, who are always having conversations on what's our part, what role we play into addressing this issue of reducing violence in America and our responsibility on trying to stop these epidemics that have happened far too often throughout time, because it seems like every few years there's something new.
Wait, you're saying crime changes?
No, what I'm saying is how we address crime. For example, drug courts, or we've seen them have more compassion and understanding with addiction. We've seen so many services. If you look at from a historical over the last few years, all of the dollars that were being sent, that were being directed to community violence intervention, which tied into victim services, which tied into other violence intervention efforts involving those involved in gang violence, juvenile violence, victim services, addiction services. I think that all of those efforts to see that there were cities, police departments, mayors, and leaders from all across America, both in the suburban areas as well as in major cities, who embraced those resources being directed there. And I think that in part, that's why we begin to see reductions in crime all over America, not just in large cities, but in municipalities and with suburban police departments and smaller, mid-sized police departments as well.
Okay, just moving right along. So you went, after 27 years in state, then what was the next career move?
So after I retired from state police as a deputy superintendent, I was fortunate to accept the job as chief of police of Baton Rouge. And
right. So you got the top cop job in Big Raggedy.
And I
I know your team Baton Rouge. I know your team Baton Rouge, so you don't have to acknowledge that. But it's all good.
Red Stick Ready, the state capital.
Yes,
I'm not going to call it the
all right.
Big Raggedy.
So that's a very different thing. So you've had the ranks, and you've done that.
Yeah.
Now you're moving into a real high level of leadership. How do you impact your troops? How many folks were in your leadership at that time?
We had right about maybe 1,000, about 700 commissioned officer police positions. 700 commissioned officers. And about 300 non-sworn personnel.
Let me ask you a question.
Yep.
You think you had enough money to run your department?
No, we could have used some more funding. Our budget was right over 100 billion. I'm sorry, 110 million. I apologize. 110 million.
That's a real number.
105 million.
What was the largest portion of it? Was it for payroll?
Payroll and personnel was the largest portion of my budget. That is correct.
Out of that same budget, were you responsible for all of your facilities and all of your utilities and everything else that came out of that?
Operations and everything. That is correct. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So obviously you feel like you could have got more funding, and I'm sure that you probably needed it. You deserved it. Your cops deserved it. But I got to tell you, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it was, and being responsible with it. And, that's part of your job as a chief of police to
Who
make
handles
sure.
that? You got like a chief money watcher?
Yeah, we have a team. We have a team of deputy chiefs. We didn't have that when I first started. We had to create those positions and created department heads who were responsible for managing their budget, for presenting their budget every year, and then making sure that those dollars that were being spent in those budgets were meeting department goals and objectives. So we met weekly to make sure that we were on point, not just with the senior staff, but also in our weekly ComStat meetings.
I would hope
to address,
so. For $100 million
yes, sir.
of a budget, you need to meet just about every Tuesday and Wednesday.
There was a lot of accountability, just like here in the city, in New Orleans. I mean, there was accountability. We answered to the city council. They approved our budgets. I had a mayor who also we were held accountable to. And then there's the rank and file, the men and women. We were one of the only police departments that still have collective bargaining. There's a union that actually had a contract with the city as it relates to operations, interaction, investigations, and administrative matters that are clearly articulated in that contract that we had. So, and then the people, right? We had to be accountable to the people. That's why transparency was at the one of the areas we highlighted under my administration: the transparency, the accountability. Creating public-facing dashboards, using technology and data to get more information out to the community, because one of the things we saw as we were working in this ever-changing environment of public safety in America, people's perceptions were not necessarily aligning with the realities of crime. And so social media had a big influence on that.
I'll bet. So you know what? You were working in law enforcement long enough to see the implications and the impact of social media coming into the society that you policed.
Absolutely. We saw the transition and how social media was being used and how we had to respond to things that were on social media that were trending, but it wasn't just social media. What we began to see was, as social media began to have a large influence on perception and what people were thinking and saying, we started to see what I believe was the irresponsible journalism that was starting to happen at the local level, where even some of the traditional media outlets were not as responsible as they once were, because it was about who can get the information out first.
Yeah, don't have to be right, but just first.
Right.
Listen to me. You just said something. And so, there's such a thing as freedom of the press. So you really can't prosecute someone. You can try to sue them for slander or something to that effect. But I mean, once it's out there, the damage is done.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, because the negative stories are the first story. It usually travels further and faster through circles, and you don't always hear the facts on the back end or the totality of the circumstances in a detailed, articulated report on what everything happens. Everybody believes that first viral moment. And
so listen, do people really yell fire in a movie theater?
Well, people, when you talk about officer-involved shootings, when you talk about in-custody deaths, when you talk about any high-profile, people it's just amazing to see this transition in such a short period on how people want information. And then you have all the Monday morning quarterbacks on social media, all the investigators who think they know what happened or what should be done or what wasn't done right. And I don't think they understand that there's information that we have that we cannot share, because we don't want to compromise the integrity of an investigation. And even though you want it right now, we have to get it right.
That's why y'all always say no comment.
Right. Well, and sometimes, in every time, getting it right takes time, because it takes a thorough investigation. And those investigations, whether it's administratively or guided by the Law Enforcement Bill of Rights, when you work for a municipal police department here in the state of Louisiana or a state police, and it also requires consultation with the district attorney's office when you talk about criminal investigations. So we find that people's patience in terms of understanding the process that it takes is getting shorter and shorter. And that does become a challenge when facts don't always matter.
So your chief of police, what's the best day of your tenure as chief of police?
Oh, so many. So the good.
Yeah, give me the good. I'm going to tell you why, because we're going to talk about the bad. But for me, because it's easy to say you're the chief of police, all you hear is murder.
Yes.
Because the average citizen, if they're not paying attention to the news, they don't know.
Yes.
But the average law enforcement person, that is their department, they hear about it every day.
It's so many emotional moments throughout my career, no difference than here in the city of New Orleans. There are New Orleans police officers out there every day that are demonstrating those values of loyalty, duty, respect, honor, integrity, personal courage. I saw it every day with my Baton Rouge police officers when I was blessed to lead them. So many great police officers all across America that have story after story after story where they talk about their calling, right, and why you took the job, and
right.
then to know that you're changing lives, saving lives, protecting people, and to hear a story from someone who was a victim of a crime to come and say thank you, or the mother who was looking for some closure, and we finally arrested the person who took her baby away, to hear that thank you from a mother, or to go in the community who we worked side by side when we received the complaint, and we didn't work against them, we worked with them by keeping them engaged and involved and informed, and to see reductions in crime in those areas that wasn't just because of what my officers were doing, but it was because of how we were working with the community to resolve that community problem, and to see the data in our real-time dashboards, and to see it every week or to see it every month. And
so you have a CRM almost that kind of gives you the information on the crime statistics?
Yeah, we created a real-time crime center, and we started building it in 2018. There was a young officer I met at a roll call meeting, and I learned he built houses. I said, "You build houses?" I said, "How would you like to build our real-time crime center?" And I did the research on it, and there was some legal review, but at the end of the day, that young officer for the Baton Rouge Police Department built our real-time crime center, and we were able to get funding through grants, through some responsible budget management, and moving some dollars around to build that out and put the type of technology that's needed in there, from license plate readers to crime cameras, and sharing access to the real-time crime center from businesses, so that we can have more eyes out there, particularly in some of the hot spots where data was showing us that crime was more likely to occur. And so using that technology and building on those relationships with some folks who didn't necessarily have a favorable opinion of us before we brought them to the table, and now they are our ambassadors, and
I like that.
And they're supporting law enforcement, and will be the first ones to sit there in a community meeting and say, no, not this police department, not our police officers. So when you have community members defending our police officers, that's a true definition of partnership and trying to create a public safety ecosystem.
So that brings me to another thought. You know, the what do they call it? The uniform cameras? What do you call them?
The body cameras?
Body cameras.
Yes.
Help or hurt?
Oh, it's a game changer in law enforcement. Helps law enforcement, not hurt.
Yeah, because now we don't have two sides. We got one side, the truth.
Well, look, I don't know the terabytes of the storage, or what's the appropriate term for the largest data of evidence that's stored in cameras, but that's stored in the cloud. What I can tell you is that I don't care if you're in New Orleans, if you're in Baton Rouge, Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, all the way up to Seattle, Washington. There are hundreds and thousands and thousands and thousands of video evidence that's stored on servers that show our police officers doing the right thing, getting it right, and representing us how we want to be represented. And it far outweighs those incidents where we see one of ours have crossed that line, and we are looked at in a negative light, and we have to remember that they are not the norm. That those individuals who cross that line and no longer deserve to wear that badge are very few, and that the good men and women who wear the uniform, who go out there and do their job for the right reasons, we too want them out because they give us a bad name. And we see that happening.
In every bunch.
Well, we try to do a better job of that. I think we see policing in America has progressed to that point over the years where we're seeing more responsibility, being more responsible with holding each other accountable to make sure that our officers don't cross that line, and that they feel safe to say, hey, I need a timeout, I'm going through something, and we can get them the care that they need through employee assistance programs to make sure that we're addressing officers' mental health, because our police officers are dealing with folks at some of the worst times of their lives, and it's our responsibility as leaders, as public servants, to make sure that we create environments where they can come to their supervisor, where they can come to their chief, where they can come to their partner and say, I need help. I need help.
See, this goes back to my statement about that tender age child that's at an early age and they're introduced to drugs. So I don't believe that human beings are bulletproof. I believe that human beings need and require a lot more than what we're comfortable admitting. And by that, I mean, it's like, if you're a cop and you've been a cop for however many years and you've been in some pretty tough situations, it has to impact you. There's no way that you're impregnable and you're just never gonna be impacted by it. The things that you see, I could not handle that. I can't get the call at 3 o'clock in the morning that somebody just lost their son, daughter, or friend. I can't do that.
Right.
I'm not built for that.
And that's why it's so important, when we talk about officer health and safety, and it's so important for us to understand that we've had too many officers who've reached that point of hopelessness.
Yes.
And they took their own lives.
And I don't think we talk about that enough now, do we?
No, and we're dealing with people at some of the worst times of their lives, and so many hats that a police officer has to wear, and that's why officer health
Counselor,
and safety,
friend,
absolutely,
protector,
absolutely,
ear, all of it, and that's what I'm saying. And I give the badge respect, but I'm just saying that let me flip that and say that as a regular walking non-criminal citizen, you don't know that you need the police until you got to dial 911.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Everybody hates a plumber until the toilet doesn't work, okay? And if somebody's knocking on your door at 3 o'clock in the morning, me personally, because I have some personal issues, I'm going downstairs. But the average person is dialing 911 and they need help.
I can tell you, I was blessed as the chief of police of Baton Rouge to represent my department on the International Association Chiefs of Police Board of Directors, and I was in that for several years as the chief. And I can tell you that even now in my current position, because I am active with NOBLE, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, and see the work that they're doing at the leadership level of NOBLE and at IACP to address that issue you're talking about, which is officer health and safety. And that topic comes up, and we are constantly having conversations about what we can do as leaders to help change that culture where that police who's going down that road feels safe to say, hey, I need some help.
Man.
And that and recruitment and retention have been at the top of all of our challenges over the past several years, ever since the COVID pandemic changed.
I don't think that did
things in
anybody any
America.
justice.
No, I think we can have a whole conversation about what that not only did towards law enforcement, but communities as a whole. And we don't talk about the trauma that we experienced as nations, as communities, as individuals, and we never had the appropriate response. And
I don't think you still have it.
No, and the mixed messaging back then, right? Let's think about COVID, right? We had so many unknown things, and there was mixed messages at the federal level, state level, and local level, all telling you to do something different. Police officers still had to go to work.
Yep.
We still had to respond. And all of the trauma that we saw in America, not just in large cities, in rural America as well. We saw increases in violent crime. We saw trends changing. We saw more domestic violence incidents occurring, not just intimate partner domestic violence, but family domestic violence, brother shooting brother, brother shooting father, father shooting son, and in the daytime shootings, and more young women, females being involved in violent crime. And that on top of the increases of overdoses and deaths, overdoses that where people have actually lost their lives, not just all the overdoses, but fatalities. Yeah. All of that happened, and the death, how many people died during the COVID epidemic, all of that created trauma. And there was no message on television. There was no billboard. There was no commercial.
In the defense of...
That was saying 1-800.
In the defense
we're
of...
here for you.
Most of the people who got it wrong, I don't believe they knew what to do.
Well, I think there's some fairness in that, that it was something new. Well, it was new. We had never dealt with that as a country. We had never dealt with that as a whole.
Listen, you got Texas who said, leave everything open, don't even wear masks, go about your business. And right next door, Louisiana says, shut it all down.
Well, that's the mixed messaging I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. So who do you believe? Who's right? Who's wrong? And because it was so much unknown. But here's what I do know. I believe that had there been a unified front from not only all the medical organizations, all of our elected officials, there should have been 1-800 numbers everywhere saying we're here for you. What you're experiencing is normal.
Yeah.
Right? Listen, it's the new normal because you're not the only one going through it.
You know what cabin fever is, huh?
Yes, sir.
Listen, we gained weight, we lost socialization, we had an entire couple of years of kids that just really are suffering today. We're seeing the ramifications of that now.
Absolutely.
Because I just recently interviewed somebody and she could barely speak English. Okay, I mean, like, there are some things that, I mean, we got work to do, and we can talk about the problems all day, but one of the things that I like about your vantage point is that you saw it from a law enforcement position at a high level, in a pretty multicultural city in Louisiana, and I think that information is priceless, because I don't think that, I think we probably need to change the way that we police today. Let me tell you what I mean by that. The more we understand about the human condition,
right,
the brain itself, you know, how close people are to making a bad decision. Get in the car, don't get in the car. Drink this, don't drink that. Mess with this girl, don't mess with that girl. There are so many decisions that you can flip a coin and somebody's life changes on a dime. And we shouldn't be able to throw our life away with a bad decision. We you know, to err is human. We should probably get a little bit of a mistake here and there, but not a mistake where you shoot somebody. But you just got to think about it. I mean, I don't know that the law is perfect. It's a complicated process. It's a big body of work. It takes a lot of moving parts. Justice isn't perfect. I mean, I just feel like we sometimes get it wrong. That's just my whole thought process on that. Now, as a black man, how do we repair the relationship with the law enforcement, the police, and the agencies that govern us?
Well, I think we've seen it. We've seen so much progress over the past decade, right? In our understanding of policing, in our understanding through research, through academia, putting out reports, through community engagement, through activism. I think all of those things contributed in some part into the advancements that we saw in policing in America today. You know, the 21st Century Policing Report. You know, if you go through all of those pillars and read all of the recommendations, I don't think that there was a police department in America who couldn't see value in one of those pillars, right? And something that we can do. We do understand that there are challenges, not just culturally and how you present those changes, but dollars in revenue. You know, to make changes and retrain the police department takes money, right? That takes.
Where does the money come from?
That takes revenue, and so, but the playbook was there. Right, the foundation for policing, good policing, was there, and so we seen police departments all across America and abroad, outside of America, that took to heart those recommendations and those policies that were outlined. That report did not just come from law enforcement leaders. It came from all stakeholders, from citizens, from faith-based leaders, to from academia, elected officials, just about every discipline that can be thought of in those community meetings before that report was drafted contributed in some fashion to the final product. And so it wasn't just a police report, it was a community report. And there's a lot of progress. I think when we see how we've policed and we talk about the history of policing, and we go back and have uncomfortable conversations about policing, that there's value in saying, you know what, we could have done better. There's value when we make a mistake to say, I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. We are in the risk business, and sometimes mistakes are made.
Let me ask you an uncomfortable question.
Sure.
When did you join the force?
91, 92.
1991, 2025. How was humanity different from a law enforcement person from then to now? Meaning, what was the worst thing you were dealing with in 91? What's the worst thing that you're dealing with in 2025? Let me tell you why I'm asking. Because I don't know that we've gotten better as people. Now, if you believe that there are good people, then you have to believe that there are bad people. So that means that we might be 50-50. So again, the question is, 1991, worst thing that you had to deal with as a law enforcement agent. 2025, the worst thing that you see.
Things were so different then, you know, and when I first became a police officer, just like any officer, when you first get out the academy, you know, I wanted to change the world. Look, I remember, because, you know, you're taking me back down memory lane.
Let's do it.
Right? And I went to the Harvard Police Academy, right, not too far from here, not even a couple of miles from here, right there on the river. And I remember I received 2 awards. It was the academic award and a driving award. And
so you can drive and read. Go ahead, I'm listening.
Yeah. but I believe it was called the Louisiana Weekly.
Okay.
They had a newspaper. It was a black publication. And I remember being in there, and they took a picture of me, and my mom went all around. My mom went all around buying up every Louisiana. Hey,
bro, give mom her let them be proud.
I don't even know if she paid for it,
let
if it was
be
free.
Proud.
But I know she picked them up, and she just had this whole stack, and she gave it. I'm just so proud of my baby. I'm just so proud of my baby. He's in the newspaper, and I was in this probably 3 times smaller than I am now, right? And I was clean though, okay? And I remember that proud moment. So that was my introduction to policing, and to see how proud this woman of God, this woman who raised me, who poured into me, I wasn't gonna disappoint or let her down, right? And so I was just this happy kid that my mom raised, and I took that personality into policing with me. So I was having fun. Okay, I was having fun. But I also knew I took those values seriously, to the point where I recited them, and I can repeat them to you. And it was just something that I was proud of, and because I remember when I became a state trooper, And I remember riding through the neighborhood in that car and just looking at the expression on and we were in the lower ninth ward. Now we had our crack cocaine, okay,
Sure.
and that epidemic. And so there was violent crime, but just to see how proud, you know, my community was of me for that accomplishment. My mom threw this big party and everybody came and they were so proud of me. And I didn't want to disappoint them, right? I had life experience to know what good policing looked like and what bad policing looked like. Maya Angelou had a saying, people may not always remember what you say, but they will always remember how you make them feel. And I remember those few altercations I had as a young kid, how it made me feel. And I remember how that trooper made me feel.
I bet.
And I took that in policing. But yes, there were systemic issues that negatively impacted communities of color. Yes, we over-policed in some neighborhoods. I used to be shocked when I would hear someone say that they didn't want law enforcement in areas. And I can tell you, every time I did a walk, we had weekly community walks, and we let the data determine what areas of the city that we would do these community walks in. And when we did these walks and we knocked on doors and we waved and we had conversations, we wasn't just talking about violent crime. We were addressing quality of life issues, blighted property, vehicles, lighting. We were addressing anything that we can do to have a positive impact on that community. But the conversations were, thank you.
Okay.
The conversations were about, we appreciate you. Thank you for being here. We wish we can see you more. How can we get you out here again? So this belief that we're not wanted in communities is just not the truth. They wanted us there. It's what we do when we're there that they're concerned about. They're a very small group of people. I don't care if it's in New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Chicago, New York, LA, there's a small group of people that's responsible for the violent crime. And
violent crime is the ugly stuff.
I'm speaking of murders, I'm speaking of homicides, I'm speaking of violent crimes against persons. And those individuals that are involved in that, the community want them out just like we do.
Yeah.
They just don't want to be treated like they're part of the problem when we're in the community. Because they live it every day.
I cannot describe to you enough the impact that the culture has on crime. Jay-Z told us that he's living proof that crime do pay. And I wonder how many young boys heard that in the bravado and the energy and the hype and all of the glamour that came with those types of statements. Because I, like every other teen, was enamored with rap music and whatever other genre of music that perpetuated the culture. And I see the impact of that today.
Yeah.
I am a suit and a tie. That is the uniform of the wealthiest and most powerful men in the world. But it is not the uniform of the average 20-year-old young black boy, 25-year-old young black man. And so I wonder, what am I missing?
Crime is such a complex issue.
It is. And how much of it is choice? How much of it is culture? How much of it is heritage? Like, if your daddy was a damn criminal, then there's a good chance you might either make two choices.
Well,
you can see what he did, or you can do what he did.
Well, I think those points you just presented are valid, but I also think that we have to talk about education.
Okay. Let's talk about the educational aspect when it comes to crime. So how much of the criminal choices are a lack of knowledge?
So I'm a data guy. I'm a data guy.
I want to know the numbers.
I created a real-time crime center where we were getting this information from our records management system, from our CAD system, the dispatch calls for service, and we were presenting this in real time as best we could, and then we made that available to the community. So we had a forward-facing dashboard, right, that covered crime, and I can go to neighborhoods, I can go to 100 blocks, I can go to zip codes, I can go to city council districts, and take any data I want as it relates to the type of crime I wanted to see review. And we also use GPS mapping to map those areas out. And having that information available and just seeing how we came so far and not running from the data, but embracing the data, embracing technology, and embracing AI, and how I think is not only going to have a significant part of policing in America, but on our everyday lives in so many different ways, in business, right? So much change.
Yes.
So much change in such a short period of time. But I believe that most people are good.
I needed to hear that.
I do.
Because you see it through a different lens. I
do.
only can see it through my small window. You're saying
Most
that based
people
on
are
the
good.
collective,
Yes.
you're saying that you're in neighborhoods, there's a small fraction of folks
Yes.
that are just trash. Then we need to get rid of them. Can we send them to Australia?
There's that needs more accountability. And look,
Okay.
that accountability is not just policing. I think we politicize and polarize crime so much. And we like to blame law enforcement. We like to blame our mayor. But the reality is crime isn't just a police issue. It's a community issue. Okay. And it's going to take a community response, working with law enforcement, working with legislators, working with our federal partners, working with our state partners, and working with service providers.
But do these different agencies actually work together?
They do. They do. I think we can start here in New Orleans. I know when I was down here as a state trooper, I had state troopers assigned to DEA, FBI, a Secret Service. We work with NOPD. We work with our partners in Jefferson Parish. The same as when I was chief of police at Baton Rouge. We work with all of our federal partners. We had federal task forces. We were involved in complicated investigations involving criminal organizations through wiretaps, through long-term investigations, through the use of undercovers and CIs. And that's been my entire career. I've witnessed that at the state level and as a chief of police. So we do work with our federal partners. I think that one of the areas that I believe that we could see so much more improvement. It was on the understanding on the importance of the community to get involved. Now, look, I do understand that there are things that happen that interfere with that trust. Yeah. I get that. Mm-hmm. I get that. But you asked me what I saw different in 91 than 2025. And I think there's been the breakdown in family values. I think there's been I think our faith-based community are not saving the souls of these young kids. A lot of them not going to church. A lot of them don't believe in God.
You got to remember my statement from earlier that I don't believe we've gotten better as a people.
No, I think the village that I believe I had, which helped make me successful, not because I was the smartest, but because I had people who prayed for me, because I had a mother who loved me unconditionally.
I know all about
because I had uncles who were all truck drivers who made sure I stayed straight.
Where is that? Where is it at? But because the home is so broken and so divided, we got the young kids having kids, and now they're not even having kids anymore. So I think that there's probably a massive correction that's coming, and I say that because I talk to school teachers all the time.
Yeah, that we see it in the schools.
That is another battleground that you cannot just dismiss. I mean, can you imagine being a fifth grade teacher right now in 2025? Have you met these kids?
It's challenging. I see it with our officers. It's challenging. We talked about all the different hats a police officer has to wear throughout his tour of duty, and in a split second, he has to transition from a guardian to a warrior.
Yes.
To either act to save someone else's life or to save his own life. Mm-hmm. And that happens in a split second. I understand the complexities in that policing isn't easy. And that is why I believe our law enforcement officers should be compensated appropriately.
Okay, now let's
should
talk
be
about
one of the highest paid police departments.
Do you feel like officers make enough money?
No, I don't.
Based on benchmarks around other career areas.
No, I don't. I think law enforcement officers, police should be one of the highest paid professions. I really do, because of the complexities of the job, because of the responsibility that goes along with the job. When you ask about the body cameras, if you sit there and you took the time to watch all the body cameras and you see police officers de-escalating situations, you see police officers playing consular, not playing consular, but being a consular. Let me make sure I get that correct. Or using their crisis intervention training because they've identified a mental health issue that someone may have, and there's the appropriate response that goes along with that, or involved in a domestic incident where he's able to calm someone down, and from the investigative side, and we can go on and on what we asked him to do. Yes, I do believe that police should be one of the highest paid professions.
Now, do you feel like there's enough training for stuff like that?
I believe, I think you'll see that we are very heavily trained, law enforcement. One thing we do is we train, not just from the post requirements. Every state has a minimal a number of hours that police officers have to have in order to be certified as police officers, and most departments go above and beyond that. Some double, right? I know if you looked at, I believe, BRPD and state police, their training was double, almost double, if not more than what the state required. So there's always additional training that police departments implement that's not necessarily a requirement of post. So we are very trained, but I do believe that the level of expertise that is required from our police officers today deserves the appropriate compensation for that. I do believe that, because you have to transition within seconds. Based on what's being presented to you.
Not many people know how brilliant technology is.
Yeah.
I'm on the other side of that. I actually do know, because I pay attention to it, and it's been something that I've been parallel in my career. I've been in finance, and I've watched how we've secured money. We've got that down to the smallest percentage. Fraud, if it happens, if it's deposited, if it's withdrawn, if it's transacted, we know how to track it and find it and root it. Okay? That's on the finance side.
Yes, sir.
I believe that if we wanted to stop the war on drugs, we could. I really believe that. At the highest level, if we had an executive order that said every agency is going to use every governmental resource, every satellite and everything you could think of, we're going to shut it down. Let me tell you something. I was in the United States Navy from 95 to 99. And my job was to chase drug boats. And we used to chase them in helicopters on fast ships. And they was just running right out of Colombia, right up to the Gulf, and then we just run them right back. And we just did it every week. And I'm like, are we making any difference? I sat on a bale of heroin that was the size of, I don't know, taller than me, 6 feet by 6 feet. I sat on top of it, and we just sent it right back to wherever the Coast Guard came and got it. It was just, I just saw a difference in things back then.
Yeah.
And like I said, I believe that if we wanted to stop certain things, we could. I believe we can cure cancer. I really believe that. I think that the FDA takes a long time to get things done. I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I'm just saying, I appreciate your investment into law enforcement. It's commendable. Somebody has to do it. How do you know that you want to do it? How do you know a person is right for a law enforcement position?
Well, it's a calling, it's values. There's a process that just about every police department have, right? From the application to the background. Backgrounds are pretty thorough. Reference checks are pretty thorough. There's some still do polygraphs. There are other
Now, can you be a convicted criminal and still become a police officer? Not
with most agencies. Most agencies, that would be probably a disqualifier.
Oh, man.
If you're a convicted felon. And there's credibility issues that you'll have to deal with.
Because you're getting ready to get a badge and a gun, right?
Well, that is correct, and so the standards, although they have a change, particular what I've seen over the past decade is the marijuana and the usage of marijuana.
Had to soften that
where that has been relaxed a little bit in terms of how it used to be. And the time period in which you could have last smoked, that has changed, and not only a local level, but on a federal level. But there's also psychological evaluations that officers go through, and then there's the academy, and in the academy, some don't make it.
Oh, so the academy is an additional vetting process.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So you have the whole background. You have all of those things I talked about, and then there's an academy. Some don't make it through the first round. Some don't make it through the background. Some start the academy but don't finish the academy. And then after academy, there's a field training officer program, and some don't make it off the field training officer program. So there's processes in place to monitor, to evaluate.
That makes a lot of sense.
Police officers.
So you ain't about you gonna funnel. We're gonna start with a lot, and we're gonna work our way down to the few. What they say, many are called, few are chosen, right?
Well, yeah, and those numbers, have changed lately in terms of the percentage of individuals that are making it to that final step to permanent status. But I think that's generational differences or concerns that we have in policing today. But it's a great profession. It is, and it's hard. And I think, even I think about a couple of that throughout my career. I was involved in a case that led to the termination of an officer. I believe that those officers that I knew were good officers when they started.
And you believe that because
do.
they were in such a bad situation?
Well, because I've worked with some of them. I've been there. And when I heard, or when we investigated, or when I learned that they did something, I was like, what happened, right? Because in my mind, that's not the guy I knew, right, that I work with at some point. And things happen in life. I don't think that those officers who all of those who made those mistakes or we determined no longer deserve to wear that badge. I don't think all of them necessarily came in as bad. Something may have happened in their life or along the way that may have triggered that, or some may have. It's not a perfect system, but I can tell you that those officers are not the norm.
Well, Warren Buffett said that if the police follows anybody for 500 miles, you know how this goes, right?
Was that one?
Warren Buffett said that if the police follow anybody for 500 miles, they're going to get a ticket.
They're going to find something,
They're
right?
going to get a ticket.
Yeah.
And so for me, if you follow me for 15 miles, I'm going to get a ticket, But hey, I only mean speeding ticket, by the way.
Right.
Now, let me ask you, do you think AI is coming for the police job?
I think I wouldn't say coming for, but coming to support, coming to help, coming to help us be more efficient.
Now you saw RoboCop, so I'm already telling you, I saw the movie, and it didn't end well.
Yeah. So looking at the change, I remember when I became chief in 2018. When I was going through the process, I had a 6-point strategy that I presented to the mayor and to the committee, and it was that 6-point strategy that led me to be accepted and to be chosen. And one of the first was technology. Mm-hmm. That was the first, the use of technology, and prior to we started a drone program. We looked at how AI can be used in every area of efficiency because offices require so much. So how can I help reduce the repetitiveness in which we write reports? The repetitiveness in which we have
technology. That's the benefit of it.
We have all of these silo different systems that we were using and combined all those systems together. And I think using AI to help in that piece that's less time officers are spending writing reports, and they're able to go out there and do proactive patrols that I think have a greater long-term impact, or using that technology to help an investigative process with leads. Obviously, there has to be verification with that piece. I know right here in New Orleans and other places there's concern about facial recognition software and how that is being used in policing. And I think there's a responsible piece that can be used as a tool for law enforcement.
So who has a problem with facial recognition? You walk in Best Buy, they got cameras on you all
Yes,
over the
sir.
place. So if you're a criminal, you don't want to go to Best Buy, right?
Yeah, I think it's a tool. I think everything, when it comes to investigations, there's still some old school policing that still has to happen.
Of course.
There's still some supervision that must happen, some verification that's required. But I do see value in the use of AI in policing in America. And it's not a matter of if we embrace it. If we're going to embrace it, I can tell you it's happening, and it will continue to grow. So I think it's our responsibility as leaders to make sure that there are policies in place, that there's procedures in place, and training, and the appropriate training on how that's going to be used.
You just said that technology coming into the marketplace means that the legislation and laws have to change to accommodate for that. Case in point, I remember when cyberbullying became a thing.
Yeah.
And you had to start writing laws saying you can't cyberbully, a digital fingerprint is an attack. We're going to, do something for you.
Yes, sir.
You remember
Yes,
all
sir.
that, huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. See, that's you overregulating. Let me see. All right, so listen.
Yeah.
Gun rights.
Uh-huh.
Do you believe every person in the United States, natural-born citizen, should have the right to bear an arm?
If they're of age, then I'm okay with a person who can legally have a gun, that they can have a gun. Yeah, I don't have an issue with law-abiding citizens having the right to bear arms or have a gun. I don't.
You heard the saying, guns don't kill people, people kill people, right?
Yes, sir. I heard that.
All right. There are more guns in America than there are people.
Okay.
Okay. Should we put geo stamps on guns?
No. So look, this is my. I don't think that we as a society really take gun violence as seriously as it should be taken. I think that there are areas of improvement. Mm-hmm. We just talked about AI. If I lose my cell phone, I can go to somebody else's cell phone and find it. I just have to log in.
Wow.
Right? I just came back off of vacation and I can track my luggage. There's little air tags you can put in things to track
GPS
it, but I can't.
Trackers on guns.
If I'm a gun owner and the manufacturer required that, and only I as a gun owner or a law enforcement entity with probable cause for a specific type articulable reason to track it, that can be done. So there are a lot of things that we can do, from keeping guns out of the hand of those who are going through mental illnesses, or not only who have one, but who may be experiencing a crisis, a mental health crisis. And I do believe that there are areas, not just from the government standpoint, legislatively, that can still be responsible while respecting individuals' rights. I think technology can help with that, but also I think that the family piece, that there's some education that we need to have with our own families and communities.
Hello.
Look, we know they got some folks in our family that don't deserve it, don't need no gun.
That's all I'm saying. Ray cannot have a gun.
So I think that there can be there's some room for growth on both sides. Legislatively, I think things can be done. I don't think we should have these assault rifles that I believe were meant for wartime on the streets of America.
There's no reason for a banana clip in Gretna.
I think we can be more responsible with that, and hopefully we'll see that. But there's a lot of room for improvement when it comes to gun violence in America.
Well, listen, Mr. Murphy Paul,
Yes, sir.
It has been a pleasure to talk to you. I think I can talk to you a little bit. In fact, when we get off camera, I'm going to bother you
Yeah.
some more about a whole bunch of other things I got on my mind.
Yes, sir.
But the
Yes, sir.
reality is, I believe that your career has been decorated for a reason because
Yes,
you
sir.
are truly a public servant and a
Yes, sir.
protector of the people. I appreciate you. I commend you for that. I give you your flowers. I salute you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Business is War. Today we had the extinguished time, and we spent time talking about everything that you can possibly imagine when it comes to policing, community involvement. And Mr. Murphy Paul, thank you again, and please come back and see us, all right?
No, thank you for having me, and I look forward to you coming out to our next community compass event that we're going to be having
I'm not coming.
at one of our local
not coming.
churches, where we're going to continue this conversation because I love having these uncomfortable conversations with the community and talk about our role.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we're going to talk about when we finish finalizing this next one is this lie that's been in too many communities, and it's called Stop Snitching. Snitches get stitches. And I think that there's a responsibility that we have as a community, as responsible adults, to have the conversations with our kids, with our babies, with our children about what that means and how that negatively impacts
if you do
a younger generation and culture.
I'm telling on your ass. Okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you know what? Go deal with whatever consequence that comes from, because good fences make good neighbors. I mind my business, but at the same time, if Mr. Johnson is missing his lawnmower, I'm going to tell him where to find it at.
Well, we have a detailed conversation on that.
Yes.
And we give a historical perspective,
yes,
life experience perspective, law enforcement perspective, and what the community should do when presented, when confronted with that issue.
Business is war.
Yeah.
Protect yourself at all times. See you on the other side. Like, comment, and subscribe.